Let's finish 10.4. Multiply radical expressions. A few things we need to remember. When we're multiplying these two factors and we use that FOIL method, notice that we have m and 5 in each, and a minus in one and a plus in the other. So if you remember from chapter 6, when we factored, this was the factored form of the difference of two squares. And so we will end up with this m squared minus 25. Okay, so you want to remember that. Let's look at w plus 5 squared. We want to remember here that we're going to write this 2 says we write this, we multiply it twice, so we have to write it twice. Okay, that's kind of weird. And then do the foiling thing. Then we combine those middle terms. Okay. Something else we want to remember. So if I'm multiplying the square root of the same number twice, then I'm going to end up with that number. If it's the cube root, I would have to do it 3 times. So this is going to give me, that's a 3, and this is a 2. This would give me the cube root of 8, which equals 2. So you want to keep all of these things in mind as we multiply. It'll help your work go a little bit faster. Okay, so for our first new problem, everything else has been just reminders of things we've done in the past that will help us with what we're doing new. We're going to distribute. So I'll multiply the square root of 7 times both terms that are inside the parentheses. So I have the square root of 42 plus the square root of 35. Remember, we want to simplify if we can. And in this, in the radicals, simplifying means if I can get these down to where they have the same number under the radical, then I could add those together. So if I look at 42 and its prime factors, 42 is 6 times 7, and so 6 is 2 times 3, and 35 is 5 times 7. And notice there's nothing that I can pull out and simplify these. So that means this is my answer. Lots of times we have a hard time leaving something like this as the answer. But you have to remember you can combine. Remember, combining is adding or subtracting similar terms. And what makes them similar for the radicals, it will be the same number under the radical. These are not the same. They cannot be added together. We came over here to see if we could simplify them, and we can't. We can't take any of these numbers out of that radical and simplify it. So these, again, a refresher of things that we've seen in the past. So remember, the 2, that square, tells me I have to write this twice. Then I'll use that FOIL method, and so I'll have the square root of 6 times the square root of 6, but remember, the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 equals 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put that. That is a shortcut that I can take, and so 6. Then we're going to multiply these 2. Well, that positive times a negative. Well, let me go back to my pen. And I'll have the square root of 6 times 5. Then I want to take and multiply here. A negative times a positive will be a negative. And again, 5 times 6, 30. Then I'm multiplying the negative times the negative, which will give me a positive. Square root of 5 times square root of 5. Remember what we just saw, and so I can go ahead and do this. So when I go to simplify this, I will combine like terms, 6 and 5, and then I've got a negative, and this is a 1 here and a 1 here, and they're both negative, so I will add them. 1 plus 1 times the square root of 30. All right, so here we are going to, again, do the FOIL method. And so we're looking at multiplying these 2 first. And so I've got 9 times 3 on the outside. And then the square root of x times the square root of x, again, will give me x. Then I will take and multiply that first and last term here. I've got a negative 7 times 9 times the square root of x. Then we want to do what's on the inside here. So we'll take and multiply these 2. So negative 1 times 3 times the square root of x. And then we want to take and multiply the negative 1 times the negative 7, which would give me a positive 7. We want to combine like terms. So right here in the middle, that's where our like terms will often be. So 27x minus 66 times the square root of x plus 7. All right. So before we do the practice, I want to put in here bonus. So send me an email. And tell me that you watched this video. Now this will be 5 points on test 3. Okay? Now I still have some practice to do, but I wanted to go ahead and mention that before we did the practice. So let's see, let's do practice. Gosh, I hope you guys know the drill by now. I'll give you a couple of problems. And then I want you to write the problems down, pause the video, work the problems. Y'all know the drill. Then come back and check your work. Okay, so there's the two problems I want you to work on. So go ahead and pause the video and do the work. Do the math. That's what we want to do. Do the math. All right, so I hope you did well with the practice. Look at the answers. Always, if you have questions, email me. All right, hope you guys have a great day, and on to the next lesson.